We have a warrant to search this property. Step aside.
Okay, then show me the warrant.
We don't have to show you anything. We're executing a lawful search.
Actually, under the Fourth Amendment, you're required to present the warrant before entry.
Lady, you're interfering with a police investigation. That's a crime.
And conducting a warrantless search is a constitutional violation. That's a law.
He was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. His conviction made headlines across Philadelphia. The U.S. attorney held a press conference where she specifically mentioned that the case had been initiated because one of her prosecutors had personally witnessed an illegal search attempt. The coverage identified Jasmine as that prosecutor. Within 24 hours, she received death threats from police supporters, many of them explicitly racist, targeting her as a black woman who dared to prosecute white officers. She also received hundreds of emails from people thanking her for standing up to corruption, many from black and brown families who had been victims of similar illegal searches. The investigation into the narcotics unit continued. 3 more officers were charged federally. 8 others were fired by the department. Lieutenant Brennan pleaded guilty to conspiracy to violate civil rights and received 5 years. The Philadelphia Police Department was forced to implement sweeping reforms. Every warrant application now required review by a legal advisor before submission. All officers had to complete a 40-hour course on Fourth Amendment requirements. Body cameras became mandatory for all search warrant executions. An outside auditor was hired to review warrant applications quarterly. The district attorney's office had to review all 27 cases where illegal warrants had been used. They dismissed charges in 19 cases. 5 people who had been convicted were released from prison when their convictions were overturned. The city faced a wave of civil rights lawsuits from people who had been illegally searched. The settlements totaled over $8 million. The insurance company that covered the police department threatened to drop coverage unless serious reforms were implemented. All of this happened because Jasmine Carter refused to step aside when 3 officers showed up at her door with a defective warrant. Let's talk about the bigger picture here. This story isn't just about one prosecutor stopping one illegal search. It's about what happens when someone with actual authority challenges police who are used to being unchallengeable. Most people don't know their rights when police show up with a warrant. They don't know that the warrant has to be shown before entry. They don't know what probable cause means. They don't know that they can read the warrant carefully and ask questions. They don't know what a defective warrant looks like. Police officers count on that ignorance. Not all officers, but enough that it's a systemic problem. Officers like Derek Mullins have been getting away with sloppy, questionable, and sometimes fraudulent warrants for years because nobody pushed back effectively. But Jasmine wasn't a typical citizen. She was a federal prosecutor who specialized in this exact type of misconduct. She knew what questions to ask. She knew what red flags to look for. She knew how to analyze a warrant application and spot the lies. More importantly, she had the institutional power to actually do something about it. When she said she would file federal charges, it wasn't an empty threat. It was a promise backed by the full weight of the Department of Justice. This case also highlights a serious problem in police culture. Derek Mullins had been investigated twice before. Both investigations had cleared him, not because he was innocent, but because the system protected him. Internal affairs investigations of police misconduct have conviction rates that are dramatically lower than prosecutions of civilian crimes. Why? Because police investigate police. Because departments are more interested in protecting their officers than in accountability. Because the culture prioritizes loyalty over integrity. It took a federal investigation, led by a prosecutor who wasn't part of that culture, to finally hold Derek accountable. And even then, it only happened because he made the mistake of targeting someone who could fight back. Here's a question for you. Should all police misconduct investigations be handled by outside agencies instead of internal affairs? Comment below.